Welcome to Audacity Works, a podcast inspired by and dedicated to the working artist, the creative entrepreneur, and generally, doing the damn thing. This exists on the premise that the world belongs to those who have the audacity to believe that their lives have value. This is for you. Welcome to Audacity Works. I am your host, Rachel Strickland, and this is episode number 125, and it is a buffet. A buffet episode is just what happens when I'm looking through the questions that y'all have sent me. I'm like, these are great questions, but I don't think I could talk about any of them for 20 minutes. But I want to talk about all of them and address the questions. So we're going to do as many as we can in 20 minutes. Let's go. This first question is from Laura, who says, I have recently been feeling a bit down due to a breakup with my aerial duo partner / best friend. Ugh. I know this situation is probably common, but I'm finding it hard to move on, even though I know it is probably for the best. I got this question a while ago, and the reason that I haven't answered it yet is because I have no fucking idea, Laura. I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because the people who have broken my heart the most completely have been friends more than any romantic entanglement that I ever experienced, or relationship of that matter. It was being dumped by a friend that hurt way worse and that I just never got over. Because when a romantic partner dumps you, you can be like, oh, fuck them, oh, they were whatever, and you can remember all the bad things about them and be like, well, I'm moving on with my life. But when it happens with a friend, you just can't get rid of it so easily. At least I can't. So I'll tell you a tiny story without going into specifics. I had a friend breakup in my youth. I must have been about 23, 24, and it was my best friend, and she just stopped talking to me. And I was really, really sad at first, and then I got really, really angry. And eventually, over months and months and months, I realized I wasn't going to get over it because I just couldn't stop missing her. Like, I still missed her. So what I ended up doing was I wrote her a long and loving letter telling her that I loved her. She didn't need to respond. I didn't need a response from her. And to have a great life, and that I would always miss her. And I put it on her windshield in the parking lot. And funny story, like 2 years later, she sought me out and we drank a bunch of wine and ended up in the bathroom. I don't know why bathrooms are always where you end up having deep heart-to-heart conversations. And I basically found out she was, at that time, had been entangled in a very abusive, toxic, I would say bordering on narcissistic abuse relationship, where, I don't know if you're familiar with narc abuse, but they basically isolate you completely so that they're the only people who have access to you. And that, of course, meant getting rid of the biggest threat to the partner, which was me, the best friend. And he did a really good job of it. So that tiny story time was just to say that sometimes the end isn't the end when it comes to a deep friendship, that if you just can't stop missing them, you might not be done, and you might be done. I don't know. But the story was just to illustrate that you never know what someone is going through and the whole context of what they're going through. And it might not have anything to do with you at all, and it might have something to do with you. But I wish I had better news for you, babe. All I know how to do is just love her. And if you want to miss her, or if you miss her. I don't know if we have any choice. And wish her well, and take care of you, and invest in your other relationships, and try to let her go in a loving way. And you don't need to speak to her to do this, especially if speaking seems to be making it worse. Because in the end, like, forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. And resentment and holding a grudge is like, what's that quote? Holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting it to harm the other person. So it doesn't harm the other person. It only harms you and drains you. And if you can find a way to love her and forgive her and just let her go on with her life, and you go on with your life, keep your eyes on your own paper and tend to your own affairs. I just thought it was high time that I deal with that question, because you asked it of me a long time ago. I was like, when am I going to tell Laura that I don't have any good answers for this other than to just try to forgive her and then tend to your own life? But I wish you healing. And something that I've realized about healing is that we tend to think of healing as something that we attain, but that's not what healing is. Healing is getting rid of something. Healing is being free of something. Whether it is a heartache or a disease or an injury, to heal means to be free of the impingement and of the suppression. So my wish for you is for your heart to feel healed in a way that is free and light and can love her from afar without needing anything from her. And maybe that will change someday, and maybe it won't. But cheers to your freedom and to your healing. Next question on the buffet is from someone who will go nameless, but it is how to navigate a show when your director gives you no constructive feedback, no direction, and has bad taste. Asking for a friend. Let's talk about it. You've probably discovered by now that not everyone is good at their jobs. Or maybe they're really good at some part of their jobs and really bad at others. That absolutely pertains to people in power. Have we been seeing that? People in power being really, really bad at things? Yeah. Anyway, let's keep this art specific. So working with directors are human. They have generally worked really, really hard to get to be in the position of director, either by support of the community or, family support, or they built it all themselves up from the ground because that's what they wanted to do. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be good at it. So some things to consider and keep in mind. One, your director might be at a place in their evolution where they're learning a lot of things, and they also might be at that position on the Dunning-Kruger effect. They might be at Mount Stupid, which is when they feel really, really confident, but they don't actually know what they're doing yet. Or maybe they're at a different place on the Dunning-Kruger effect where they're realizing the holes in their knowledge. And when you're in charge of an entire production and you realize that you have massive holes in your knowledge, there are a couple ways that people respond to that, but by and large, the most popular option is to get real defensive about it and to blame your holes in your knowledge on the cast and your other supporting partners. I'm not saying it's right, it's not, but it is human and it will happen. Especially if you have cast members who are very competent and organized and have a great vision. And perhaps there are some holes in this director's skill set, which makes them bad at communicating or bad at managing their own emotional intelligence. At any rate, the reality ends up being the same. You're like, I am trying to help realize a vision for this show. I don't like the vision. The director's not good at communicating with me. And now I'm just making a work of art that I don't give a shit about because I have no personal investment in the project anymore. This is a shitty place to be. It is also a side effect of being a professional. Not every project is going to be life-shatteringly awesome. And you're probably going to learn a lot more from the disappointing projects that weren't very fulfilling than you learned from the ones that were like, this was amazing every step of the way, oh my God. So advice for what to do when you find yourself in one of these situations. One, keep your own front porch clean. No matter what their communication style is, what do you have control over? You have control over your words and your actions. You have absolutely no control over their words and their actions. And at the end of the day, you want to be someone who you can respect and look back on your interaction and be like, well, I'm glad I did the right thing. I'm glad I behaved myself with integrity. And maybe you fuck up and you don't behave in integrity. You know what? That's okay too. We do not have to be perfect. We are allowed to make mistakes. And you are certainly allowed to dislike your director, and you're allowed to think that they have bad taste. But the truth remains that they are the director, and the director has a very specific role in a piece of work, which is to make all the final decisions. Another role of the director is to solve problems. That includes when a member of their cast is not resonating with the work or is failing to connect with it and doesn't understand what their role in the production is and needs more guidance. That is also the role of the director, and you can bring that to them. And here is where I'll use this axiom that I love, which is ask better questions, get better answers. The director cannot read your mind, for sure. And if you're asking for help and you're not getting it, it's just not satisfactory, you could try asking a question in like a totally opposite way than you've been asking it. And maybe that will yield a better result. And maybe it won't. I hope that it will. But phrases such as, this is what I need to make this piece work. Or, here is where I'm having a problem. Can you please provide me with a solution to this problem? If it's put in terms like that, then it helps to remind them, like, this is actually your problem because this is your production. Instead of, it can be easy for a director to just be like, oh, stop, you're being so annoying. And you're just like whining and in my ear like a mosquito. But if it's presented to them like, this is a problem I'm having, like, can you help me find a solution as the director? It puts it back onto their plate. Thank you, anonymous listener, for that question. It was pretty fun to talk about. This next question is from Lydia, and it's more like a question for me to ask all of you because I don't have a good answer for it, and I would really, really like to talk to someone with more knowledge of these things than I have. Lydia writes, yesterday I had a chat with a student of mine who's over 60 about how or where she could perform. I know she is not the only one who found aerial later than what is normally considered for gigs and shows. So I thought I'd suggest the topic of an alternative route to performing for those quote-unquote aged out or other circumstances. I really want to address this, and I want to be able to give some good resources and some wisdom. And I think that that's going to need to come from someone who has more wisdom and more experience with this than I do. So if anyone knows a performer who is in their 60s, and I think I'll keep this request to a performer who uses a physical skill, just to be really true to Lydia's question, please write to me because I would really like to interview them. So I'll ask better questions, get better answers. I'll repeat what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a physical performer who's in their 60s and is still performing on stage. It does not have to be a full-time gig, because, like, honestly, it doesn't. And who might be, like, up for a conversation with me to talk about how they navigate having found aerial later in their lifetimes and yet still finding access to stages. And I'm moving on. I also want to ask you again another question. So I got this great podcast request from my friend Kim about art and activism. How can they go together? The only organized group I know of is the Guerrilla Girls, end quote. So I have been thinking about this a lot, and I also feel like I need to bring on an expert. Luckily, I have just the one, and it's Dr. Jess Allen from Wales. Jess has not just one, but 2 PhDs, one of them in arts activism. And I don't have that background, but I think now is a very good time to be having those conversations. So I'm going to bring her on the podcast. I've already asked her, and she's already said yes. That happened 2 hours ago. So if you have further questions, because ask better questions, get better answers. If you have things that you would definitely like to hear about the intersection of art and activism, please write to me and I will collect those questions and put them to her. As far as like setting the table for this conversation that's going to happen in the future, I was just meeting with her today. We had our last one-on-one. Jess has been a VIP client of mine. And I put this question to her, and the way it came up was that there was some post on Instagram saying that art is activism, and as soon as Jess saw it, she was like, no, it's not. Those are two different things. And then went on to have this like eloquent spiel that just appeared right out of her brain because she has a doctorate in the subject, and it was so interesting. So I'm really excited to have that conversation with her. So my repeated ask is, what would you like to know about the intersection of art and activism? Okay, my friends, it is a bit of a shorter, sweeter episode today. That is for several reasons. One of which is that I'm kind of out of time. And the other, which is that it's like finally getting warm outside and it's really, really beautiful. And there's like things pushing their way up from the dirt and I want to go look at them. So I'm going to go look at them. But thank you to everyone for writing into me with your questions, even if I don't have the answers, because that lets me know who I need to talk to or who I need to ask for. So that I can have those conversations with someone wiser than myself. If you have requests for future episodes, you can reach me always on Instagram at Rachel Strickland Creative or on Patreon at Rachel Strickland Creative. This podcast is powered by Patreon, and I don't know what I would do without them, honestly. They make this podcast possible and help me not go into the red by creating it. And they also give me life in so many other ways. I put up a really long update yesterday, so that's available on the Patreon for you to read, and would love to share it with you. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for making so much possible for me. This could not exist without you. If this was helpful to you, the greatest compliment you could give me would be either to join me on Patreon or to share it with someone that you thought it could help. Thank you. And thank you for letting me sit in your ear for nearly 20 minutes. I don't take it for granted, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much. So until next time, I'll leave you with this. Ask better questions, get better answers, and don't go back to sleep.